It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by the Riverview Hospital in Wisconsin Rapids and Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320, as well as on the web at WFHR.com. We also welcome our friends from River Cities Media, who are digitally recording this for later broadcast. And we welcome to the microphone this morning Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carl.
Okay. Well, we might as well talk about the weather because it's having impacts on county budgets and municipal budgets across the state. Frozen pipes and the like, and I know you've heard all the different stories, but how is Wood County faring so far?
Well, first of all, from a budget perspective, they have this incredible collapsing chair here that I happen to sit in. So if you were watching this, it's a pneumatic chair, one of these deals that goes up and down.
That's right. I hit my foot thing.
There's three of them here, and I tend to select the wrong one.
Pam's going, my fault. Pam usually makes sure that that's not your chair.
I'm all of 5'7", 5'8" to begin with. So when the chair goes all the way down, I can't even reach the counter, and that happened right at the start of the show. So
I was wondering. I'm reading the weather stuff, and all of a sudden you're scrambling.
Yeah, I can't get this into your budget, but maybe the radio station's listening to the chair next year. But our budgets, and I don't know that the cold is impacting the chair, but the cold certainly has had impact on budgets. The icing in particular. We have been out there salting, sanding, and plowing because of blowing and drifting. It seems on a daily basis, and obviously that comes at a cost. The number one thing we look at is getting people safely to and from work and school. And we try to accomplish that, obviously, in a cost-effective manner, but there's dollars that need to be spent there. And, this will have a multi-$100,000 impact on our budgets this year. So, we'll try to have to adapt in other places. There may be some things that get deferred, through the spring and fall or get put off till next year. We only have so many dollars. We have to make those work, but this will strain those budgets.
That leads to another delayed budget impact, is when the snow and ice and the frost is out of the ground, we're going to start in the city. They're already making plans for, oh boy, we got some roads that are going to be needing some serious repair work. What about the county?
Absolutely. The number of heaves and the severity of those are pretty bad this year, and I think we're going to see some much worse outcomes than we normally do, and obviously those need to get fixed. I always talk about the tough problems of government and the easy ones. The easy ones to identify are those: there's a hole in the road, or the road is gone, we need to put it back. Those are pretty simple, but they do need to be done. And in talking to some people around the state, I was at a conference the other day in Madison. They're seeing that all over. We're going to see some, I think, pretty big impacts to those roads here. You don't have to go very far. In the city, Wisconsin Rapids, 8th Street.
Oh yeah.
And stuff. I mean, you literally can lose a car in some of those areas. And I saw county crews out the other day, and I'm sure city crews doing the same thing, patching as many holes as they can.
Yeah.
Those patches don't last very long. As we get rain, freezing thaw, they come out rather quickly. But in the meantime, hopefully you can avoid some damage to some vehicles and some accidents.
The reason I ask it, because weather does have a budgetary impact, and no one was anticipating as severe of a winter.
No, in everything. You've seen that with the propane shortages we've had.
Yeah, how's Wood County been doing with that?
Supply seems to be coming back. We seem to have that availability. Prices are coming down, but those prices that we had throughout much of the winter are going to impact people all year. People didn't have an extra $2,000 or $3,000 typically laying around. So those are impacts. Damage to cars and vehicles are an impact. In the city, where you have to keep water running, there might not be an impact to your bill in particular, but there's certainly an impact to the city,
Sure.
From having to do that. So this type of severe weather, whether it's extremely hot or extremely cold, typically costs a lot of dollars. It doesn't benefit anybody except for what we were sharing earlier. The snowmobile trails are in great shape out there.
I was going to go. Now, the positive side of this is that your snowmobile trails and your cross-country ski trails are all in great shape, and it's a nice long season for winter sports enthusiasts.
It is. If you can, pick a day and or a time of day and get out there, those opportunities have been fantastic this winter. I was speaking to our parks administrator the other day, and Chad told me that he thought that one of the recent weekends, I think it was 2 weeks ago, was probably the biggest day we have ever had out at Powers Bluff. So there are opportunities. There are days you can pick, but let's face it, 30 below zero, or 40 below zero wind chills or real temperatures are not conducive to really any activity.
No. When you have single-digit highs and the wind chill is well below zero, most people tend to say, I'm going to sit here by the fire.
Yeah, for winter, I'm good with snow every couple of days and 20-degree temperatures. And then
that'd be great for skiing. I like cross-country skiing. That'd be perfect.
And then it can instantly turn 80 and they can open the golf course.
There you go.
It's kind of my plan.
I vote for that. All in favor, say aye.
I don't have a lot of input with the guy upstairs making those decisions.
If you're just joining us on the Morning Magazine, we're visiting with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml, and we're going over a bunch of the different county issues. One of the items that was on the docket at the last county board meeting from the judicial and legislative and executive committees was to establish a salary for a Wood County administrative coordinator position. Give us a background and where are we with that, and what did the county board do?
Well, it's interesting. That resolution will come forth actually this month. It was it was pulled out. I'm not sure. I didn't ask why. 'Cause sometimes it's language in the whereas or something that needs to be further looked at.
Sure.
But I believe it's coming forth this time. In our county, and I always get a kick sometimes when I get phone calls where people assume that our county board people are fairly high paid. Executives make
You're not.
decisions. The average county board supervisor probably makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 a month, and the county board chairman is paid in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000 a year, and handles all the duties of the county board, all those responsibilities, and serves as our administrative coordinator. And so, in looking at the counties around us, where they spend $20,000 to $25,000 for a board chairman, and then they spend another $150,000 to $250,000 on the administrator's office, and their secretaries. They thought maybe we ought to compensate the person who does that work at a little higher level. I happen to be that person who sits in that chair right now, so it becomes somewhat of an uncomfortable conversation for me because I don't, nor do I think anybody who serves in government, at least at this level, does it for the money. It's not a career. But when you break that down and you start looking at less than $400 a week and no benefits, and you expect somebody to really respond on a daily basis.
And then you have your full-time job.
I mean, 7 days a week. It really, comparably, is not a big price to pay. And I think no matter who would serve in that position going forward, it's probably something that they need to do. You just cannot take people away from other work, regular jobs, and pay them $40 a day. With no other benefits. It really just doesn't work. So I would probably be in favor of that. I think it beats the alternative of spending that $150,000 to $250,000 a year for a full-time administrator to sit in that chair and basically do the same work that our county board chairs have done, and I think have done, and I'll go back, admirably well. We have one of the lowest effective tax rates. We provide an extremely high level of service, and I'm always one of those believers, if we don't really need to spend it, we probably shouldn't.
And Wood County, you mentioned low level of taxes compared to other counties, and yet a high level of service has gotten noticed by others in Madison and the like. And you've been on various committees, including frac sand. and so I guess if the system is working, why change it?
Yeah, I think our leadership has been noticed around the state. We've a number of our people serve in a number of capacities at the state level. In our planning and zoning office, one of our employees up there, Justin Connor, serves as the president of the Wisconsin Land Information Association. Jason Grunenberg, our director, had previously done that. A number of our department heads sit on various state committees that help craft, draft, and form policy. We have people on steering committees throughout the Wisconsin Counties Association. I'm lucky enough to have been elected to serve as the president of that organization about a year and a half down the road. So, we have input in the process. I think it's a reflection of what we do in the county. It's noticed. It starts at every department. It starts with every single employee. And you hope it's a culture. You hope people want to come to work here because they see what we do. And I hate to see people leave. I'll call for lateral jobs somewhere else if we have the ability to retain them here, and provide that high level of service.
I can say, since you are the county board chairman, we have a marvelous relationship on the Morning Magazine with the Wood County UW Extension Office and the specialists that come on this show to talk about everything from farming to horticulture to community needs, whatever. I mean, and we have some nice local expertise right in our own backyard, and that's nice to have.
The scope of county government is huge, and recently we had a legislative exchange in Madison. One of the interesting things done there was, what is the public's view and perception of county government? And it started with those man on the street kind of questions that you might see on a Jay Leno type show,
right.
There, the jaywalking segment or something, and they asked people who the president was, and most of them got that right, and who the vice president was, well, maybe 50% of those were right, and you got down to even your federal office holders, whether it be senators or representatives and legislators. Very few people know who those were, and nobody knew who their county elected official was. And then they went to the second part of that question: what does the county do? And the answers were, unbelievable. Some of them are, what does your county official do? Well, they run the state, or they run my city. And then occasionally somebody say, well, I think they might have something to do with the parks. So there was really no understanding of the scope of county government. And I don't know that I had a full understanding of that when I came to office, 16 years ago, roughly. And it's pretty expansive in what we cover. Pretty much, all of the mental health issues that occur within a county. Everything that's handled by the human services and health departments. Whether it be clinics and WIC programs and energy assistance, and dealing with physically and mentally challenged individuals. Jails, corrections, courts. It just kind of goes on and on and on. Not to mention the parks and the roads and the point is, if you walk around the courthouse and you look at those offices, if you looked at the directory when it came in, we really do, you mentioned it with Extension, but we really do have a lot of expertise in an awful lot of places. Extension being one of them, and I'll, kind of a shout out there, but, I often kid, everybody knows somebody who thinks they know everything. I actually do know somebody who knows everything, and, it's Peter Manley at UW Extension. He really does.
He's one of the people we have on this show.
He really does know something about everything, in an effective manner. So, and I think we have that in all of our departments.
Okay. And you mentioned, the County Boards Association is a sponsor of Discover Wisconsin Radio, which we carried during my noon report, and they sponsor a series of public service announcements about what they do, what counties do to try and educate the public about this is what your county does for you. That leads to an interesting topic we talked about last time we visited, and it was brought up during the most recent county board meeting, and that is the ongoing facilities study and the like. Can you give us a little bit of an update?
Yeah, that's the $60 million elephant in the room, so to speak. I came from a business background, and I look at every problem we have or every challenge out there is from that perspective. What's the return on investment? How do we best spend our dollars? What becomes the most effective in the long run? And that doesn't mean necessarily just tomorrow. One of the challenges we have in our county is we have a courthouse that houses most of our facilities that's 60 years old. And that in and of itself isn't a huge challenge. But the systems within that courthouse are a huge challenge. When you have HVAC systems, and you have part of that boilers that are 60 years old, and you can't buy parts, and they're too big to bring in, and you have controls that really don't function well. When you have security issues that weren't at the forefront even 10, 20 years ago, that becomes an issue. And then the other part of this, one of the big ones is communications and fiber optic capability. Boy. And, much of what we do is extremely secure data and information, not stuff you want out there on the airwaves. So it has to be, transmitted in a way that it is secure, and even the ability to run, that type of communication capability throughout those older buildings becomes somewhat impossible. So you start looking in the long run, and this is what we're looking at right now. We're going to actually we're going to have some opportunity for public input. In fact, I had a conversation just this morning with the mayor's office saying we'd like some input from the city. We're looking at, do we try to repair, retrofit, and work within the confines of what we have right now? Do we build additional space on downtown? Do we use property out at 17th Street to address some of those issues? The fact of the matter is we're going to spend, my guess would be $5 to $10 million in the short run just to bring things up to speed, so to speak, just infrastructure improvements.
Well, the city's going through that right now.
And they've been going through it for a number of years now. Or, do you kind of bite the bullet and not abandon what we have, but, remodel that for some areas that might not need some of those capabilities and do an expansion downtown. But frankly, the bill's going to be, 50 to 60 million, I think, by the time you got to the end of the day. That's kind of best guess estimates. And, that's a cost that would be spread out through bonding over the next, again, probably 50 to 60 years. But sometimes that becomes more cost effective, both from a human perspective, and from an actual bricks and mortar perspective. When you have to start driving people and paying them, and you have the risk of running employees from a department in one building over to another one, there's a cost factor to that.
The rental,
duplicate equipment costs, when you have 2 and 3 locations. So we're looking at all that, and we started this process. It's probably been almost 2 years ago. We're starting to get some final plans. We're down to, I'd call it kind of 3 options, and one is do nothing, and I don't know that that's ever an option. 2 is, do we look at expansion downtown at some point, or do we look at it, I'll call it off campus, and we do own a lot of property at on the 17th Avenue site where the highway garage is.
Okay.
I'm not sure which way, at this point we'll go. There's a lot of people. We need a lot of input yet. But going forward, that's going to be the real big issue, and how do we address that? Because of the services we provide, we had for instance, we had a water main break in the courthouse last year. Well, originally when you built the courthouse, you didn't have computers at all.
Right.
And now they're housed in areas where, dampness, water, wetness causes issues. They have to be moved somewhere. Do you want to spend a lot of money to temporarily move somebody somewhere, or do you want to look at a long-term solution? And when you do that, you weigh that cost in. What's the cost of bonding? What's the cost of the money? What's the cost of labor? And how does all that factor in long-term? And then we try to make the best decision because it's your money.
Yeah, but one of the bottom lines is things never get cheaper.
No, they don't. And that's one of the things, we're looking at a long-term horizon. We talked earlier about potholes. Those are the easy decisions. I can go out and fill those tomorrow and fix them. We're trying to look, what's our 5-year needs, our 10-year needs, our 20-year needs, 30, 40. And frankly, right now, from a financial opportunity, I've never seen cheaper money in my life, and I work in that business.
Sure.
But, you have 2% and 3% money out there. Those of you who bought a house in the early 80s, when you were paying 14, 15, 16% interest can understand that maybe when it's 2 or 3%, that's when you bite the bullet because the cost of money will not go up then. I mean, you're locked at that rate. Even that being said, though, you still got to run that against, what's the cost of just remodeling, getting by with what we have, and trying to make it work. Okay,
and that's why you need as much input and expertise as possible.
Absolutely, and and I'll tell you this: the firm we brought in with the expertise has been outstanding. The plans I've seen, absolutely superb, and I think they've dotted the I's and crossed the T's.
What's the name of the firm?
I don't even remember. I could take a guess here. I think it's if I say the wrong one, I'm going to be in real trouble. I think it's Venture Architects.
Where are they from?
They're out of town.
Okay.
Have offices, around. But the point is, they've done a great job.
Right.
And I don't know where we're going to go with this, but there will be either modifications to the facilities we have at a fairly significant cost, or there's going to be some modification and additional space needed.
Well, I'm glad you're talking with the mayor's office, because whoever is holding that office after the April election is going to be dealing with this issue, because the city has long-term issues as well in terms of how they want to develop their downtown and the like. And it's good that the county and the city are kind of meeting together and saying, okay, what are your plans? What are your plans?
We've tried to do a much better job of that. Sometimes we tend to operate in that, in that silo, and you don't think about that. And one of the points I made at the meeting yesterday was we really should bring them into the conversation. Does expansion in one place enhance a downtown area? Does it hinder further development? What would they like to do? We've had the same conversations with Marshfield. Can we co-locate services, for instance, at the Norwood facility? Typically, and I hate to generalize too much, but typically when people are in the system, so to speak, the county provides a lot of assistance to people who otherwise can't get that. And sometimes they fall, they kind of, all of those services end up being provided in one place, so to speak. A lot of times, if you're dealing with our court systems, you're also dealing with our human services system, maybe with probation and parole, which is a state issue. But sometimes if we can bring all those people and players into one place, it's a lot easier to service and serve those people, because some of their issues become oftentimes transportation from point A to point B. We're not typically dealing from a county perspective, and this might not be the politically correct way to say, but typically not dealing with people who have maybe the most means to be able to travel and to get those services. So if we can provide those in one place, it tends to be much more effective. But then again, what's the cost to doing that?
Yeah, and some interesting issues and debate that will be taking place in the days, months, and years ahead.
Yeah, it's the big issue for us out there from a money perspective right now. And it's going to be the one that we're looking at probably for the next 6 to 12 months. Okay.
And when do you anticipate having like a final recommendation? Or?
That's a really good point, Kyle. I really wish I would have brought a schedule with me. I've had a day or two here where I've kind of been all over every place. But we're going to have a public information meeting where we're going to lay out some of these plans in the courthouse. I think it's March 14th. I think it's March 14th. I'm not positive on that.
That would be a Friday.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking it might be that day. It will certainly be published. I know it will be on our website, and I'm sure it'll be in the paper because they were reporting on this the other day, where we're going to have the plans there. And we'd like just a public information meeting like they do with the highway. What do you think?
Okay, you come and walk through?
Come and walk through. And then we're going to have that set up again prior to the county board meeting, which is March 18th, I believe.
Yeah,
March 18th. So there's going to be a couple opportunities where we can get some additional public input into it. And then again, the meeting with the city and with continued meetings with the consultants, the architects, the county board. And the county board's not going to make a decision at that March 18th meeting. We're going to get the plans kind of laid out with the cost associated. It's one thing to say, here's the plan, but until you put some numbers to it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's going to be rolled out there, and then, we're going to go back and chew on that and, see where the see where that decision falls.
Okay. Well, we've had an interesting discussion. Let's hope for all the winter sports enthusiasts that the winter is safe, that they enjoy the remainder of this winter. But a lot of us would like that snow to melt soon so we can hit the golf course. And let's hope that we're having a minimal impact from any more extreme weather. Hopefully this is the last Arctic outbreak, I'm hoping. But I appreciate your time this morning, and we'll meet again next month.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it.
Okay. Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml with his monthly report here on the Morning Magazine, which, as always, is brought to you by Riverview Medical Center. With you, it's personal and Comfort Air.